I don't care how evolved you become, life is still going to happen. It's part of it. So we focus on the wrong things. We create a picture of this ideal world that we want to live in, and which shuts down the universal creative power within you. The more that you get to know what you're here to do, what is your life purpose, your life work? What are you here to shine? What brings you your greatest joys? What are your deepest pains that become your deepest healing, becomes your day job? Like, what are those types of things? And the more that you know who you're not, or rather, I should say, the more that you know who you are, the more you're going to know who you're not.
2, 1, 0.
Stellar Life Parenting series with Kristin Van Wey. Just a reminder, she is the founding director of Let's and the CEO of Essentials First. She is the international leader, educator, speaker, and trainer in innovative approaches to wellness and has helped tens of thousands experience insight, understanding, and remarkable results. Kristin is the bomb. She knows a lot about a lot. And in this episode, we dove into Nature's Head Start, which is Bruce Lipton's program, but also, I mean, of course, when we speak, we go in many different directions. And we just talked about how to embrace yourself and accept yourself. And from this place of embracing and understanding, you can be the best human beings. And when you are healing your own shadows, you create a ripple effects that can influence everybody around you. This was a fascinating interview. And even in the beginning of it, we did this incredible freaking exercise that helped me to become more present, more grounded. And this was just a wonderful conversation. So you can do the exercise by listening to it. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is Orion. Today I showed up to the interview very tired. We went to a vacation in Orlando. We had the best time of our lives, but I'm also struggling with major hip pain. So I got 2 intense massages and was suffering from the hip pain throughout the journey, even though it was really, really fun. And so I woke up this morning and I'm so exhausted. And so my incredible, smart, brilliant, phenomenal, multifaceted, knowledgeable, incredible friend, Kristin here, was like, wait, let me just do this. Your polarities are not aligned. And then she said all kinds of things that sounded like Chinese. And so we're gonna start this podcast in a different way. If you're listening, she's gonna take you through it. So, hello, lovely. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm doing really well. In fact, my energy is flowing effortlessly today. And so when you came on, I was thinking about our topic today, which is conscious parenting and Nature's Head Start program. And I was thinking every parent needs or would benefit rather from having a tool called the daily energy routine. And it's,
Dun 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 dun. The daily energy routine.
yes, it is. And that is a Donna Eden energy medicine extraordinaire. She's the brilliant mind behind so much of the movement of understanding how our bodies and our energies connect and the electromagnetics and all of the responses within our system.
I was very conscious and sweet with my toddler today, regardless of being exhausted. I guess because emotionally I feel so full from the trip and having fun and spend time at the pool. And we went to Gator World and we ate good foods and we met nice people. And I was just like, yeah, it was so nice. But usually, if it's not after vacation, he'll do, how they are, especially at 2.5. They're just like pushing the boundaries, wanting to see what's allowed and what's not, and how far they can take it. And he's got this a little bit of a rebel spirit in him, because I mean, it's a part of the age, and he's stubborn, and I'm stubborn. So if I wasn't after a vacation, I would be a little shorter with him. So I think this exercise is essential for every parent that is watching or listening or I think every human being, because we all get to those points where, like, oh my God, I need to perform. I have an interview with this incredible person, but I'm so tired. What can I do?
There are so many things you can do, and that's the joy of feeling like we have some tools to navigate our everyday. I love to use essential oils and I love to use energy medicine because they're just very inexpensive and my hands are free, actually. And there's some things that you can do to reconnect the energy systems. So, a little team science before we start. The body was designed and your system was designed to move in a crossover pattern all the way down to the double helix of your cells. We need to have a crossover pattern. When we get out of a bilateral pattern and we start moving like a robot,
That looks like a Mediterranean dance.
that's right. That's so good for you. So that's the first thing, Orion, is you can put on some music and move your body and move that beautiful figure eight. Because the system with whether it's physical or emotional stress, it could be you said you had pain in your hip, that is homolateral. So we start going into a homolateral position, and that's going to disrupt all of the flow in our body. So there's a lot of things that we can do. Well, all of them affect what's called the corpus callosum. It's in the center of your brain. We talk about it sometimes when you and I do these shows together. It's the corpus callosum or callosum, depending on where you are. It's a bundle of nerve fibers in the center of two hemispheres of your brain.
Mm.
And what happens when you go
Connect. Connect. You two.
Yeah, so you have two hemispheres of your brain, and sitting in the middle of them is this corpus callosum. And it is a nerve bundle, so it creates this flow of energy that keeps things bilateral. Right and left hemispheres communicating, able to use your whole brain instead of half your brain. So when you feel depressed or sad or sick, your system is in a homolateral state. And that has a lot to do with programming and belief systems and patterns in life. And we can talk about that later. But the ultimate goal is to take ourselves from a homolateral state to a bilateral state. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And in the daily energy routine that we talk about, that I'm going to show you right now, just a few of them. And then you can go to Donna Eden, just Google Donna Eden on YouTube and watch her do it. But because it does take 10 minutes and we're not going to take that much time. But just a couple of things that can help us get the both hemispheres talking again is simply when you start to feel yourself being triggered, you're going to cross your ankles and you're going to cross your wrists. And you're going to drop your thumbs down and then you're going to interlace your fingers and then you're going to roll your hands up. There you go. If it's uncomfortable, then you can leave them like this in your lap. But I usually do this. And this is going to be a very simple way to get the right and left brain talking again. So traditionally speaking, your right brain is about imagination and feelings and emotions and creativity, all of those things, the intuitive side of it. The left brain is predominantly known for logic and reason and numbers and words and all of those things. So have you ever been in an argument or you feel like you can't come up with words and that homolateral part of your brain, this corpus callosum kind of freezes up a little bit and it doesn't allow the words to come through.
So you just have to do that. Wait, can we do it again? We just cross our
Cross, drop, thumb,
cross in front, thumbs down, clasp your palms,
interlace,
interlace, yeah, and then
and then curl up or just leave your hands in your lap. Okay, so when my children were little and they were having temper tantrums or I could feel them starting to unwind, this was one of the things that I taught them to do.
oh really?
Yes,
At which age?
I was young as they can get their little hands together, and sometimes I would help them put their hands together. The other thing that you can do that forces this behavior is called cross crawls. And that is something that we teach our children. Maybe you've seen it in brain gyms or different things where they'll do like ear rolls to help move the energy and help them to listen and pay attention. So if you're telling your child something or you need to focus on something you're learning, something you're listening to. Just start at the top of your ears and massage down, or you can start at the bottom and massage up. It doesn't matter. And do that a couple of times.
I don't know, maybe it's relaxing me because I'm yawning a lot. And it's not because you're not. You're very interesting, honey. I'm just so freaking tired.
No, that's the thing. So massaging the ears also gives you access to the entire body. If you're coming down with something, you're not feeling as well, it's going to vitalize your entire body through your ears, through those acupoints.
Wow.
All right. So these are just little things. This actually isn't part of the daily energy routine, but we call this sitting in whole brain. And then we have cross cross.
And does it matter if do you need to change your the way you clasp and your feet just to make it a little more interesting?
So there's four different, you have different options. So when I'm stressed out and I'm trying to calm down, I'm going to just go which way feels the most natural. And then after I take some deep breaths, because breath moves energy, then I'm going to start breathing diaphragmatically in through my nose. And you can exhale with some sounds. And then you might want to swap.
Yeah, I just swapped. I think it's good for the brain to swap.
Yep.
Just
So you're just moving that action. So you're wanting to move there. So I'm going to show you just a couple ones because you said your energy is low ebb. So
yeah.
that's first off, cannot ever heal or get back into alignment if we're in a homolateral state. We want to do something like cross crawls
Mm.
or sitting in whole brain. And then the next thing we can do, they're called the four thumps.
Or thumb.
Okay, so you're going to find your clavicle,
Clavicle.
center piece,
Found it.
and then trace underneath until you find a dip
Uh,
in the clavicle on either side.
I found the dip.
Underneath, yeah, under the clavicle and find your dip.
Wow.
Everybody's got a dip. Some people's dip's wide, some people's are narrow.
Yeah,
Just kind
mine
of
is
trace
so
it until
weird.
you kind of sink in. Okay? And then you can massage those really deeply, like deeply, or you can tap them. As you breathe,
I feel like it's easier to massage it across.
if you do this, you're doing excellent because you're reinforcing that crossover pattern. So that's great.
Yeah,
So
it's
breathe
amazing
2
intuition.
or 3 deep breaths in while you do this.
Ah.
There you go. You can just
Ah. Wow.
That's if you're stressed. You're doing a great one. I can teach you that breath too. All right, so let's imagine we've done that a few times, and now we're gonna hit your thymus or massage it. Either one. I'm a little bony, so I sound like you really hear me hollow.
You know what? I did Nam yoga, and one of the breathing exercises that taught us is to take a deep breath, hold it, take a deep breath, hold it, keep holding until you can't. And while you're in that state, then you.
Then you pound. Okay, so what you're
That's
pounding
pretty
more on
cool.
your kidney 27. I want you to pound right in the center of your breastbone,
Oh,
and
breastbone.
there's
Okay.
a dip as you come straight down. There's also a dip right around here. And that's the Tarzan right here. And you want to be firm with yourself
You know, I was
because you're
very.
trying to wake the energy up. This is your energetic immune system. So by the
It is.
time you pound this, you're moving energy and you're saying to your body, "Hey, cells,
Hey,
let's get
Sel,
on it. Let's get all those
come
white
on,
blood cells moving." And then
come on.
that's right. I can even see your energy shifting already. You're starting to,
I feel like it's
yeah,
shifting. I feel like it's
yeah.
better. Thank you.
Okay, so now middle of the breast. So easier to find on men, obviously, but you're wanting to find the nipple, come straight beneath it, and then kind of, if you're large-breasted, you're going to kind of pull up underneath. There's a dip in the ribs, right mid-breast line.
Oh,
Can you find a dip?
underneath the breastline?
Hmm. It's right on the breast line, but
Mm.
if you're large-breasted, if you're going to be up underneath the breast. If you're not large-breasted, then it's just going to be right at the
Yeah,
breast line.
I've become larger breasted lately. I mean, in the last 2.5 years.
Milk has a way of doing that.
I used to be so large. Like after I gave birth, they were so big.
I know, isn't that the craziest thing? Like the human body is amazing.
My husband was so happy, but like it was like the forbidden fruit. He could look at it, but I was like, "Don't touch them."
Do not touch. Exactly. Exactly. Oh, sorry, Seven. Anyway, okay, so you'll find a very tender spot typically for most people.
I know it's tender. It's nice and tender. Yes.
Okay, so you want to massage that throughout the day. And if we
Ooh.
wake up doing these exercises, it's going to start the energy moving and
Mm.
recycling through and just moving out. That is your spleen, right? So we've got a lot of immune function.
Oh, that's my spleen. Every time I go to the acupuncture, they put the spleen meridian.
Yes, so that's what you're working.
My kidneys and my spleen.
Okay, and then kind of massage it out to the midline of your body. Kind of go to your side, and then just kind of massage up and down like this. That's gonna be,
Oh yeah, that's when you do tapping. This is a point too for tapping, right?
that is true. That's one of the
Yeah.
side taps. And we know that's a different conversation, but EFT or TFT or any of those techniques are actually tapping on the
Yeah.
meridians to infuse new
Mm.
information. So after you've done this, we have one more thump, and that's directly between your eyes on the eye bone underneath. And you're just going to breathe in. Remember, breath moves energy.
True, true, true. I'm glad that we're doing this in an episode where I did my nails. I recorded so many episodes on YouTube where my nails were like trying to hide my like, don't look at that. Don't look. Oh no. Don't look at it.
You look
Yeah, it
gorgeous.
looks bad. But today it's all right. It's still all right.
All right. So then there's so many other exercises we could do, but just do some figure eights around your energy field and take all that really good energy that's crossing over now. You could favorite song on with your child and dance and move and just
It's usually his favorite song, which is Garbage Trucks. Go. It's not that central. Garbage Trucks.
that's it. You got it. You can do this to any song. So you can go in and out, you can go up and down, you can spread it all around. You just want to move the energy, and all of a sudden you can take a big deep breath.
And
And then
voila, we can begin. I'm so
wake
alert.
up.
Oh my lord. Thank you.
So that's a really
This
great
is
way to
great.
start your day. Or if you feel that afternoon, like, you know, I smell my citrus oils about that point when it hits at 2 or 3 o'clock, and after your meal's processing, and do this again. Just really open up those energy centers, and you can just figurate yourself and your child and your husband or your partner, and it would be amazing. So
Thank you. Yeah, I feel completely different. I feel like more grounded and more here and less in this. Like when we started, I was fighting through the fog, and now the skies are clear and we can begin.
that is an excellent response, and that happens to me almost every time. So if you're stuck, like if you that doesn't work, have your husband, or if you don't have a husband, try to find somebody or find a wall with a corner on it and do what's a spinal flush. Start at the top, the back of your head, and massage down all the way to the tailbone. Do it 2 or 3 times, and that'll affect your nervous system. You can put some essential oils if you need to ground, or if you need to wake up. You might use peppermint, or you might use a grounding blend to go down the spine. And what I do is I drip it down my spine if I don't have anybody here, and I kind of rub up against the wall in a corner, and I just like make it move. And that'll, if that other stuff didn't work, that is a sure deal.
That's cute. So today, after this surprising, wonderful beginning to our conversation, we are going to talk about nature's head start. What is it, darling?
It is one of the most important gifts of knowledge that we give ourselves as mothers and fathers before we conceive, during, and after. It's the
Mm,
art of being present with our
mm.
children. And there's a lot of different aspects to this. And nature's Head Start program is the start of conscious parenting. So that is my dream, and why I started a nonprofit called Let's, was to educate men and women and youth starting about 9 years old on how their body operates. To know that there are only 6 days out of a month that a woman can get pregnant. So that when we come together we can actually choose when to conceive. And so you're going to hear a lot today about some of the work that Bruce Lipton teaches. He's the one that coined this Nature's Head Start program, and talking about things that are below our awareness or above our awareness in epigenetics teach us that we can consciously create life, and the importance of the life in the womb. That it's not just when the baby's born that the baby begins to get programmed. It starts at conception. Is a very important thing to understand, and the importance of taking care of the baby while they're in the womb, so that that word nature's head start is that we are providing an environment so that when the baby is birthed, that they are safe in the environment that they were growing in the womb with, if that makes sense. So if you're in a very calm environment, if you're in an abusive environment, if you're in a joyful environment, if you're in an urban environment, if you're on the, you know, very rural communities, that your system is already prepared to live exactly where it was designed.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to this conversation, but it's a fun one to be aware of.
So what's the part of before you conceive and while you were pregnant and after, like, what, like, does that mean that I have to be conscious all the way? What if life hits? What if there are traumas on the way? Or me having 4 months long bronchitis while pregnant and suffering and being in suffering. So, and then there is a cycle of guilt, like I wish this didn't happen, and then here comes the not orgasmic birth that I was planning, but a somewhat traumatic one that I experienced, and that wasn't unexpected. So I think, like, for my son, like, he did experience a lot of not optimal emotions while I was pregnant and while I gave birth. And now I'm like, I heard a little bit of the interview with Bruce Lipton, and he's talking about how important it is to have a high vibration and all that, but life is not always, rainbows and unicorns, and things happen. So how, and looking back, I'm like, oh, I'm so guilty. I wish I could be like a saint and not suffer.
Then we wouldn't even need to come to the planet. I mean, it goes back to why are we actually here, which is to learn and to grow and to experience, and how we define something that feels bad versus something that feels good. And there's so much to this story, but just imagine that science has come a very long way in how we understand the body, but there's still a long way from understanding the difference between what happens in the material parts of our body and the spiritual, energetic parts of our body. And before I go a step further, I want to start it by prefacing and saying this is not about guilt. It's not about feeling bad. I would say the majority of humans have pretty much a measure of trauma from the moment they were conceived all the way through all of their life. And in fact, Richard Rudd with the gene keys, we go through the golden pathway. He's got this Venus sequence, and it talks about the 7 core wounds of humanity. We all have very specific core wounds that we have a privilege of working through while we're here. So it's not about whatever that perfection is. The perfection is the awareness and the presence that we have. So sacred and intimate conscious child rearing is all about that. It's about presence. It's not about what happens. It's how we navigate it.
Also, I feel like Bruce Lipton, as a man, doesn't know what a pregnant woman goes through.
I think that's a really good point. He's strictly speaking from science. He's saying, listen, we have 50 trillion cells. The cells make, the cells come together and they make organ systems. And he's teaching us that it's not a machine. He's teaching us that there's literally these trillions of cells that we have the ability to have control over, so that when we had a traumatic childhood or a traumatic birth, that we're not stuck with that. We're not stuck with our genetics. That's no longer the issue anymore. One cell and the way that the proteins work within the cell and the RNA, like one cell has 30,000 different expressions that it can make. So Bruce teaches us about how important the environment of the womb is to a growing baby. And so that environment, the cells and the genetics of it don't really lock in until much later, like 6 months in. About 3 months before birth is when things start to lock into genetic predispositions. And so it gets very, very interesting in the control and the amount of control we have, and also asking the right questions. So it's not about guilt. Every one of us are going to have trauma. We all have 7 core wounds, and that's just normal. So the question is, how can we best navigate this, and what do we do with the traumas that have happened? And so, hey, you and me both, Orion. I've birthed 7 children, and I I look back at my 7 pregnancies and I'm like, now I have adult children who are having children, and I go, I can see the story. I know what was going on for me when I was pregnant with my children. And I also learned later how to be able to navigate that and teach them different things. So I can see what happens in multi generations now, having my first family and then my family and now my grandchildren. I think sometimes we need to focus on a couple of things, and that is loving ourselves and loving each other.
Yeah, and I believe also, I mentioned the guilt, and I'm also aware that every soul that comes to this world have a purpose. They have to go through their own journey. They chose us for a reason. They signed up for what is going to happen because they need to go through this. And yes, we do whatever we can, and then there are things that are happening. Uh, I think what comforts me is the idea that we can turn on our genes and we can turn them off. If you look at the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, own private research have shown that with awareness and connection to the matrix, the field, we can actually turn on and turn off genes. Like, he had blind people come into his workshop and be able to see after whatever, a week of doing the work. So I think we as parents do whatever we can, and then it's our children's work to do their work and what they came here on the planet to do, and their soul correction.
Absolutely. Parents, we get to be genetic engineers, and that's a really exciting
Yeah.
position, right? We're architects. We can only create to the level that we understand. And so there's no judgment.
Right.
There's no one to blame. We can't blame our parents. We can't blame their parents. It's programs that are coming through. So we have an opportunity in our generation, because there's a lot more information out for us as conscious parents, to be able to make the changes now as we're raising our children, or if our children are raised. Our job is to focus on shifting the genetic codes within ourselves, and it begins to shift the genetic codes in the environment around us, whether our children are grown or whether they're still in our arms. Some of the research Bruce did and some of the studies that are out there I thought were absolutely fascinating. And this gives me a lot of reassurance as a mother, is that we have stem cells in our body. And they've done research, and they found the baby's male stem cells in a mother's liver and in her brain, different studies of the
Wow.
child, right? So we know that stem cells are shared, and we can say that the baby boy, your baby boy, my baby boy or girls, like, our stem cells are in them. And so as my children have gotten older and they've gone to different schools or activities, or they're married, I can track my kids. Now, I'm a very sensitive person, but mothers have an innate connection with their child because we grew them in our bodies. And literally, that transmission of blood that went through their body and our body, back and forth, right? It's back and forth. And so as this is happening, not only does it share blood and nutrients and we're feeding the baby, we're actually feeding it hormonal codes and programs and the genetic keys. And so our emotions do matter. But that doesn't mean that they're bad. It doesn't mean I have just what is good, what is bad. It's all good. We have core wounds that are access points to our deepest truth. So whatever it was when we had bronchitis, or when we were sick, or I had a bad day, or we can't control the traumas around us, we have deaths and divorces and all these things that happen in our world, and wars and la la la. We have that. But we also have the ability to take that information And I just call them access points. They're vortexes that lead us to our truth. And if we didn't have resistance in our bodies and in our minds and in our lives, then we would be like, you may as well be a robot. You may as well be like an amoeba sitting
Yeah.
in a tray doing nothing, right? So we just need to learn to move through it. Bruce also teaches us,
Some days I feel like I want to be an amoeba.
yeah, some days we do, and that's okay too. But we want to open up. We're either growing or we're not. That's it. We're either growing or we're not. And so
Hmm.
sometimes we need to pause, and sometimes we need
Hmm.
to learn a little bit more. But as far as kind of pulling the conversation back to nature's head start is the womb, is the importance of doing the very best that we can. And the more that we awaken to what's possible, these 30,000 different expressions that a cell can make, that we can actually be genetic engineers with ourselves and with our children. And that should be a really fun, exciting thing instead of a depressing thing. It could be overwhelming,
Hmm.
but we can't manage our subconscious mind. It's 95, well, that's what they teach us. We don't know for sure, but 95, they say, percent of what we do is auto response. And so how are we
Hmm.
supposed to manage our every thought and belief? It doesn't work that way. We have to bypass the subconscious and work with the architect of our genetics to do
Hmm.
that, so that the cells begin to just express things that are more in flow, that are more joyful, that don't bring resistance every time we turn around.
How do we give our kids the head start?
You find your joy, you find your
Mm.
passion, you find why you're here and your flow. And when you work with you, your high, as I mentioned earlier, your highest responsibility is to ask the right questions that help direct your own life. The best tool, and I have dozens upon dozens of tools that I've learned and I'm certified in over the years, but the one that has had the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time for me is human design and gene keys, primarily gene
Mm.
keys. The gene keys, there's a hologenetic profile. It's called the golden pathway, and much like the Kabbalah or Tree of Life, it walks you through a sequence like locks and keys or codes in a lock, where you're just unlocking your codes one by one, opening it up until you get to the place of being able to open our heart.
Give me a specific example of what you unlocked for yourself and how it helps you in real life.
In my real life, I'll tell you that I've been married for 31 plus years, and I do have a large family. There's been issues in my personal life that came in well before I met my husband, and
Mm.
they have been a large part of my daily processing throughout my entire life. And I told you I
Mm.
have all these techniques, all these subconscious, awareness and rewriting, changing neurons, all of the regression work. Like I could go on and on and on about all the things that I've done to work with, say, a very specific issue. And some of it might be body dysmorphia for me. I was bulimic and anorexic in high school. It was a real challenge for
Mm.
me to really accept myself, and it's affected me my whole life. That would be one thing that I came into my marriage in. The other one was a trust issue, being able, because I had some very traumatizing things in my teen years that caused me to have a lack of innate trust. And so it's not my husband's fault, but from the moment we got married, there's been these issues that keep cropping up, cropping up. And
Mm.
I can tap on those things. I can do all kinds of, and I promise you guys, I'm a master. I've taken master classes in a lot of these techniques. So I'm not talking about I'm a beginner. This is 30 plus years I've worked on these things. Okay?
Yeah.
Learning my design and learning where my energy is supposed to flow and where it's supposed to go has liberated me. It has liberated me, and it wasn't anything I did. I began to learn about the shadow patterns within this structure I was telling you about, this tree of life,
Mm.
my unique DNA shadows and gifts and essences. And I started to unwind myself, and it was like my DNA began to unwind like this, and the light shines through, and the expression changes. So all of a sudden, you wake.
Did you physically feel it?
Yeah, well, I do.
When you say my DNA.
I don't know if
Mm.
everybody will. I don't know that that's necessary, but all you'll notice for me, I can actually. I remember one time I was just sitting in the bathtub, and I could. feel the light just pouring through. Have you ever had an experience where you
Wow.
just feel the light flowing through you? DNA, when you look at it under a microscope, they can see it's really tightly coiled. But when DNA relaxes and it's safe in an environment, it literally stretches and unwinds, much like we feel. So that's what you might feel happen is you might not feel the actual cells expanding, but what you will feel is the output is changing around you. And all of a sudden, things that my husband and I had really struggled with, I realized that when I took personal responsibility for my shadow patterns and the things that I was doing, it affected everyone in the home. So my husband began to trust more because I was opening myself to trust. And I began to see my body very differently and accept myself differently. And it's not something I try. You know how many times I've heard self-care and, take care of yourself first and it's not selfish and all these things we hear. I get it. I knew it in my mind, but I couldn't live it in myself. And so the gift we give our children is by taking care of it from the inside out. And that's a very unique journey for each of us. We have a map, we have plans and a guidance system now that can teach us how to unwind ourselves and how to be deeply rooted and embodied in our genius. And what I love about the conscious parenting is that once you learn that for yourself, imagine co-creating life with somebody who you love and you wanted a child, and you go into the architect mode with God and you co-create this life. And the whole time you're pregnant with this life, you're still working through your shadows. You got stuff going on, but you're navigating it. You're recognizing it. You're breathing through it. You laugh a little more. You don't take life so seriously. You start to spend more time on your genius than you do your challenges. And this child comes out, and you can have a map of your child. You get to see what your design is by the exact time of birth of your child, what time that
Mhm.
the child was born. Now,
Right.
I can raise my child in a way that when they are cranky and tired and stubborn and all those things, that I can look at the gifts that are associated with those challenges that they're going through, and I can feed life into this part of them that I might not otherwise have known.
How long ago did you find about Gene Keys?
Gene Keys specifically was last August.
So what did you do before you had it? Like, how did you handle all the tantrums and the moods and your own, like, I know you had a lot of tools, but maybe you can also share some of the other tools that are more instant. For example, a woman who is, let's say she's got a 3 months old or a 4 months old and she's not sleeping at night, like, besides Gene Keys, like, what else can she do to give herself a mental break, soothe her subconscious mind, and be there for herself so she can be there for her child?
Yeah. Um, I've had these tools for 30 plus years. I found Gene Keys and deep dove into it in a very short time, almost a year now. But for me, it was like a download, and I knew it already before I knew it because I've been studying this stuff for so long. I just needed to go shift my perception. But before I had the actual this tool to be so specific with it, I think the most important thing you can do is love. Love creates hormones. Forgiveness creates hormones. Letting go. But
Those are so easy to say. Let go, forgive, like cerebrally. In my mind, I understand those, but sometimes, boy, that's hard. It's hard to forgive.
it is.
It's hard to let go. Like, honestly, my whole work this last past year is about letting go. And every week I let go a little bit longer. Even my hip pain is a little bit about letting go and not like being so reactive to life and just like trusting life. Like lower back pain is, if you look at Louise Hay work, is all about trust and trusting life. So trust was a key word for me for the last 3 years, and now surrender, letting go. But it's hard because when you're so wired to, and especially the last couple of years with everything that's been with it, like first I was afraid from this deadly virus that is gonna kill us all. Then I was afraid from all the people that engineered the virus. And then I was afraid of, how divided people were, and I had my own experiences with that. And that creates some kind of a trauma for me. and it's all like being stored in my body. Like, and unfortunately, all that happened in the first 2 years of my son when his brain is in delta waves and he's so like subconsciously open. And I'm going through those experiences and I'm working on myself, but he's getting affected whether I want it or not, even if I try to hide my emotion, even if I try to. And mind you, like I had incredible, beautiful moments throughout those 2.5 years, but still, like there was a lot of pain, there was a lot of suffering. So how do you navigate that? Like absorbing all this in my body and saying like, okay, let go and let God and forgive and all the things that I teach and I talk about. And I had like 350, I think, or something interviews that are all about those things. And when you look at real life, and especially being a new mom and experiencing those external situations, that triggers all your core wounds from the past, of like my core wounds about especially belonging and being belong and being rejected. Like all those triggers, everything happened with the birth of my son, which was a great gift because now I'm working on it and I'm facing my shadows and I'm embracing my shadows, and I bring it to my clients too. Everything that I teach is something that I had to learn or still in the process of learning. Wow, I was talking a lot, but the question is,
That's the question on everybody's mind, is what do you do about it? And that's part of the journey and the growth, is to be in the present moment. The magic is in the messy, but we want to push the messy away. I believe that your son was born at this exact moment in time because his genetic predisposition prepared him for this. He was in your womb. He's prepared. He can totally handle this. And the gift is,
oh yeah, he's totally, and like it's just my story and my God
yeah,
complex wanting to
exactly.
control everybody and everything,
We
and wanting everybody to be safe and the world to be predicted and safe and safe. I just want safety. That is affecting this whole thing.
Yeah, and that's where your core wounds are. His may be completely different than yours, but we do imprint our children with those things. Like I don't, it's not about feeling guilty. It's just that's the way it is. But he was designed in order to be able to manage that. And the more that we learn as parents, the more that we understand how to take care of our children, emotionally, and have emotionally safe places to talk to our children. You do a really beautiful job with that. You sit him down, you talk, and you let him express himself. And in those moments where you're upset, that's part of life too. He's learning how to manage that or not manage that. And he's going to have an opportunity to feel the ultimately, if we can love our children, that we provide a safe place for them. But I want to also give you a practical step, because we have so many different angles of talking about conscious parenting or taking care of ourselves or feeling safe in our bodies. And the one of the gifts that you can do on a practical level is to create a very strong, deep bandwidth of health. So we have our physical health. I teach about the 10 laws of health. We want to make sure that we utilize the knowledge we have, and every law of health that we have can increase this bandwidth, so that when there's things outside of our control, that we're not automatically down below our bandwidth, like we're going to get sick emotionally or physically. We are always above the midline of that. And those are things like fresh air and sunshine and nutrition and elimination and hydration and exercise and sleep patterns and stress levels and movement and flow and mindset and service and all of these areas. I don't think I got all 10, but all of those areas are there to help us manage the way that we feel. And I see what's happened. We don't know how to eat anymore. We are fast food people and we want to get done. We're not nourishing our bodies anymore through. When was the last time we laid under a tree and just looked at the leaves blowing and got into the rhythm with the earth and just let everything go, like a leaf blowing on the coming down in the fall, just slowly gliding? And when do we do that? And that's what happens is children are barefoot, they're dirty, they're running outside, they're playing with the animals. There's a lot of joy, a lot of laughter, a lot of curiosity. And as they begin to grow, and depending on their childhood, they're going to maybe not have access to their curiosity. They're going to get shut down sometimes. So the best gift we give ourselves is to be more like our children, to go barefoot, to get in the garden, go weed the front yard, start doing things outside. Take the time to just put a towel down and lay outside under a tree and just dream for a minute, even if it's 15 minutes a day. There's earthing is a study. It's been around for a very long time. You might hear it being called grounding. If your nervous system's a wreck, you are getting away from your electromagnetics of the earth. So 30 minutes a day, even for your hip right now, Orion, laying on the earth or read a book with your butt on the ground, just legs on the ground, and your son running around outside for 30 minutes a day would do more for your pain level than anything else you could probably do. An hour would probably be good if it's acute, but it's those bandwidth things. And so if I give someone an assessment, if I'm working with a client, we're going to look at this assessment. We're going to go, where are the top 3 areas of your life that you could make some subtle changes in? Right? Is it your nutrition? Do you need to drink more water? Could you move your body? Life is movement. We're not moving our body. Traditional Chinese medicine teaches us, like Qigong or Tai Chi, to move your body, every joint, every day. How often do we sit in front of our computers and our phones and we're stuck, and then we go to bed at the end of the day and we wake up tired because we didn't move our body. We didn't drink enough.
That's exactly what happened to me, where I used to be very, very athletic, super athletic. I would go to the gym 5 times a week. I would stretch, I would move my body, like being very physical. And then I kind of stopped. And now this pain is forcing me to connect to my body. It's forcing me to pay attention. It's forcing me to appreciate my health. So I can see it as a great gift.
That's the gift you give.
Yeah, we don't have to experience such incredible pain in order to get the lesson. We can just start moving our bodies.
That's the whole point, is that it's not that you have bad luck. It's not that you have bad genes. It's not that you got the bum end of the deal. It's that we can change the expression of our DNA if our parents didn't have the tools. We're not blaming. We're just making subtle shifts. We're breaking long-term genetic patterns. And we change it every day, and then the change happens in everyone around us. I promise you that works.
It's so true, because when I'm creating, and I mentioned that a few times, that I'm doing a lot of internal work. I work with 2 coaches that are incredible. As I shift, I totally see the shifts in both my son and my husband. It's not about them. It's not about trolling them. It's about actually letting go of me trying to control any outcome, and accepting, and just being in love, in a place of love toward myself, and being okay with what is.
Yeah, I don't care how evolved you become, life is still going to happen. It's part of it. So we focus on the wrong things. We create a picture of this ideal world that we want to live in, and which shuts down the universal creative power within you. And the more that you get to know what you're here to do, what is your life purpose, your life work? What are you here to shine? What brings you your greatest joys? What are your deepest pains that become your deepest healing, becomes your day job? Like, what are those types of things? And the more that you know who you're not, or rather, I should say, the more that you know who you are, the more you're going to know who you're not, and where you've been conditioned to act outside of your own design. And that gives us freedom to let the air breathe in between, so that when a trauma happens, you got some space in there to have wiggle room. Now something happens and it doesn't feel good. You can change your auto response to a new program that says, you know what, the magic is in the messy. I don't know what's happening at this crossroad of resistance, but I'm going to just stop for a minute and be present with it, and I'm not pushing it away. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to become a black hole. I'm going to become a black hole, and I'm just going to absorb it, and I'm going to let it come in and just let it just move around it. And it's, we can alchemize anything. It's just energy. Energy in and of itself doesn't have a job. It's like a stem cell. You gave it a job. You said, oh, this is pain, or this is this, or this is that, or somebody else told you it was this or that. And then you just kind of come into this black hole and you just breathe, and you let your innate intelligence move you, move your energy.
That's so beautiful.
And we teach our children that. We don't teach our children to avoid and to be perfect and to, like, everybody has an expectation. We teach them to be present. and to listen to themselves and to trust. What did we both talk about? I had trust issues that affected 31 years of really beautiful marriage that I complicated, overly complicated it because I didn't trust and I shut down my heart and my husband's like, she's all over the place, you know? Like there has to be these spaces, but trust is a big issue. So if we can teach our children to trust themselves and to listen, watch them. I mean, with human design, I can look at their design and say, oh, this one's a splenic decision maker, or this one's coming from the heart or the emotion center. That's helpful. But even if you don't know that, just watch your children. Do they talk with their body? Do they move? You know, do they make decisions with a visceral way? Or
My little one is so, I guess because I sing and dance with him a lot, he likes to make a lot of cute songs. And sometimes he just, he'll be like, excavator, just to pull all these words that he knows. And sometimes he'll just make up like words. He already speaking two languages fluently, and then he makes his own language, and he's so animated. He's such a joy. He's so much fun.
that's how you know.
So when you look at a kid that is so animated, what does that show you about his decision making?
It tells me where his joy is. Follow the joy, follow the smiles, follow the spark. And what we're looking for in any given day are the amount of moments of presence. How many times did I have moments of presence throughout my day? Imagine you're sitting in a dark room and a moment of presence is like a pinpoint of light that shines, like one pinpoint of presence. And the goal would be to have the whole room light up with presence and then just little spots of darkness where we're just kind of in our autopilot mood. So for your child that's animated, I mean, I don't know as far as what a strategy and authority is according to Gene Keys because of that, but kids innately have a curiosity and a joy, and if you follow it and teach them, like, honey, this moment right now where you're just alive, this is your magic. Let's create more of those magic moments. Point them out and honor them, celebrate them.
I do that. I totally do that.
I know you do that. So does that take like a just a load off of us as parents to say, if I can love and notice moments of presence, that the other things are just part of life. And then if 90% of the time we had moments of joy and presence, and then crappy stuff happens, we got a war going on, we got a COVID going on, we got sickness or something, those become not the focus full time. They're just kind of bleeps along the way, like, okay, like I wonder, I guess my body needs to slow down. I need to be more aware. You know, you start asking different questions and then life takes on a new focus.
Yeah. Wow. I can talk with you for hours. Thank God we have this series where I can talk to you more and more and more and more and more. But before we wrap up for today, three top tips to living a stellar life or being a stellar parent that come to mind right now.
The importance of being in the moment, presence, honoring whatever's happening. It doesn't matter regardless of just be in that moment and breathe and don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that. I don't know if that's one. Love. Contemplate it. Contemplate. What does love mean? Meditation, concentration, contemplation, which leans on both of these. Contemplate. What does love look like to me? What does love feel like to me? And then just start being aware of moments of love, moments of presence. And then give yourself a stronger bandwidth. Ask yourself, what are some of those key areas in my life that I would like to have a little improvement in? Even if it's just a degree. 1 degree can make water boil, right? 1 degree.
That's good.
Those are my tips.
I love it.
You can find me on any of the social channels just under Kristin Van Wey and KristinVanWey.com. And you can find my nonprofit, which has got me written all over in there with all kinds of wonderful things at letsempower.org.
Cool. So let me see if I remember the three tips. First, that be present, meditate on love, be love, and what was the third one?
We talked about,
Give yourself the bandwidth.
yeah, expand your bandwidth is is that third one.
Expand. Oh, in 1 degree, 1 degree. Yeah, just look at everything that.
Well, how can you improve the bandwidth by even a small degree? Maybe it's I drink 1 cup of water today, or I go outside and I move my body, or I go barefoot for a little while outside, or I sit and read a book and watch the trees.
So, yeah, so everybody listening, watching, go drink some water now. Now. I said now. I said now, please. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, my friend. This was yet another enlightening, powerful conversation. I really love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Orion. I love you so much. Thank you for all you do and your voice out in the world of helping people have such a stellar life.
Thank you, and thank you, listeners. I hope you took all these tips and take it to heart. And if you find this information good and beneficial, please share it with other parents or other friends. And you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel and just share the love. This is Orion. Till next time.